Everyone is missing, and even if you're not missing it, I'm just going to throw it back in your face. Everyone is missing the subplot to Texas and Alabama. You're missing the gigantic economic and political undercurrent of this game. The game isn't going to decide the economics and the politics, but it is, interestingly enough, it is the epicenter of what's going on politically and economically in college football right now. Now, I'm not saying it should take away from the drama of two legendary programs. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying it should get in the way of your gambling or whatever it is you want to do about the game itself. You know, what happens between the lines. But outside of the lines, it is the tipping point featuring the two major players of the economics and politics. And I mean, it's a battle, an interesting battle in the slimy industry of professional college football. Yes, it is the two of the biggest brands historically. It's blue bloods for sure. Alabama's done more of their part than Texas, but you know, Texas has had its share. It's the game's most successful head coach ever, Nick Saban. It is an important game for both going forward. I don't think it's an elimination game when it comes to the Final Four. I don't think so. I certainly don't think that's true for Texas. But it's important. It's sort of inside track to finding your way to a Final Four. I think you can disagree. I think there's far more pressure in Alabama in terms of the game itself. And I'm not even to the politics and the economics yet. But there's far more pressure in Alabama, I think. Texas is playing with house money. You know, Saban and Alabama greatly underachieved a year ago. They were a mess when they were not supposed to be a mess. Texas sort of routinely underachieves, but they weren't a complete mess. It wasn't that far removed from what you expected. But Alabama, on the other hand, as a football team, has the top two players in the draft, and they're lucky they didn't lose more often. They should have lost in Austin. They were a mess last year by their own standards. Let me be clear about that. There were tons of penalties. They were losing games they shouldn't lose. So I think it's an important game for them. Does this kind of stuff define Nick Saban's legacy? No, it's solidified. But I do think a loss or a bad showing even, and people start to question, what's going on here. So I think Alabama faces on the field all the pressure. There's all that stuff. There's the football stuff. But the bigger issue of the sport itself, the industry itself of slimy professional college football, the bigger issues are hanging over this game. Because these are the two tipping points in the fight. These two programs represent the greatest fight in the game today. Largely started, and I think for good reason, by Nick Saban. But I don't think you can miss the undercurrent of what's going on here. Saban was the one months ago. Name, image, and likeness. Everyone is sick of hearing about it. I get it. It means nothing to you. But inside the few guardrails of the industry of professional college football, this is a giant deal. And Saban was the one, and I gave him props. And I've always said that he is not an easy guy to like. He is grumpy. He is get off my lawn. But he was the one with enough clout. He's untouchable enough that he could go there. And what he said over a year ago was programs like A&M in Texas that have no guardrails, that can just do whatever they want with their money. It's a dangerous setup. Now, was he saying that because he's jealous? Is he saying that because he knows they don't have the money? Of course so. Of course he is, yes. But I do think there were some sensible comments that he made along the way. And so he's the one who fired up this flare. And the flare is this. Southern schools, remember college football is kind of like NASCAR. It's a Southern sport worshipped by the South mostly. I'm not saying, Ohio State and Michigan don't matter. But that's where the best high school football is played. It is a passionate sport. It's bigger than the NFL. The few spots in the country where it's bigger than the NFL. And they're scared because they're going to lose their grip, and they're going to lose their grip because of economics. I mean, Alabama, Clemson, LSU, nobody has the money Texas, USC, and Texas A&M have and will spend. No one has the money of Texas. No one. And they'll spend it. And they'll hand it out like candy. And Saban was worried about it. And a lot of schools in the South are worried about it. They're saying, we've had this grip on this sport. We've been the most successful program because, and I know you're going to say, well, they've been cheating too. Not necessarily. I'm not pretending they're Harvard or something, far from it. But I don't know that you know that they're been cheating. But they sit in the middle of it. And Nick Saban has been saying for a long time, look, man, I go out and recruit and guys want to play for me. And now all of a sudden it's just about handing out money. And that's what they're worried about. And they're worried about the power base is about to change. And it's about to change because some 17-year-old rightly is going to say, look, old man Saban, those guys are going to give me an Aston Martin and a Lamborghini. You got a Ford Focus? I think I'll go there. And they're freaking out about it. And for good reason. So then Saban, of course, because he is the most important person in the South, okay, he's it. So Saban fires up the alarm. Saban says, I'm worried about this. This industry has no revenue sharing. It has no guardrails. And he's right about everything that he said. It's a mess. It's a slimy, trashy mess. You just don't get to see it, and you don't really care. But if you were in it and you weren't the rich kid, you'd be bothered by it, and he is. So once Saban says, I don't like where this is going, we got to rein this thing in, here come the people that represent the South. The great ambassador, Winston Churchill and Gandhi rolled into one, the moron that is Tommy Tuberville, Senator Tuberville. We almost had Senator Walker to really be the double. I mean, that was going to be the double whammy. And so now he's out there crusading and trying to write law that reins in the rich kid Texas from handing out money. And remember, what they do is they just hand out cash, cars, whatever. And most people can't keep up. And money works, as we all know. So Tuberville now heads out. And he says, we got to get some federal legislation. We got to rein this stuff in. We got to have some guardrails. We got to do it. Whatever Nick Saban says, I've got to jump through hoops and go do it. So he's trying. While this is all going on, this game is going on, you've got Washington now, Republicans now fighting with each other about how to rein in the spending in college sports, the handouts in college sports. Then on the other side of this is the richest kid there is, Texas, saying, no, leave us alone. Get out of our face. Sorry you don't have any money. We have it all, and we'll spend it too. Deal with it, man. So Texas is drawing a hard line. Can't blame them. Saying, rules, no, thanks. We would prefer not to have any. We don't need it. We got this. They're represented by the great, also the Winston Churchill of his time, the lovable, the cuddly, everyone's favorite friend, Rafael Cruz. So you got this collision going on. Raphael's saying, leave him alone. I got you, Texas. I got your back. I'll make sure in Washington everyone leaves you alone. You've got the other Republicans in the South representing the Alabamas, the Clemsons, the LSUs, where football's NASCAR, saying, no, we got to get some legislation here. And you got that going on above this game because these are the two programs where this started. They are the guinea pigs of out-of-control spending. Yeah. So it's just this weird, giant issue hanging over the game that does matter to Saban. Steve Sarkisian doesn't, I don't know that he talks about it. He doesn't need to talk about it. Somebody else will handle the money. He doesn't care. I mean, I'm sure he wants to be left alone. He probably likes the way things are going. So I'm not saying the coaches are going to battle about this. They're not. But it's an issue. It is the issue. And it happens to be the two of them. And it's so interesting. And this is part of the reason why I think there's a little bit more pressure on Alabama. I don't know how long Saban, I know this is crazy to say. I know it is. Given how they've dominated the game. I know. But the grip could be loosening. It really could. And I think he knows it. And I think he thinks it's unfair. And I'm not sure that he's wrong about that. He's saying, I'm the best coach there is. I can out-recruit anybody. except for Deion Sanders now. And this isn't fair, man. That's not what this is about. This is about me calling up guys and saying, I'm Nick Saban, I'll get you in the NFL, and then I get the best recruits. All of a sudden now, you're throwing Aston Martins at him, and I don't like it. And I think the pressure's on here. I think it would be an important win for Alabama. I think it is an important win for Alabama. I think Alabama, just like a lot of schools in the South that are trying to deal with USC and Texas, just come roaring in anywhere and everywhere, just saying, what do you want? We got it all. All the money is right here. Come take it. And so Alabama and the whole South, and the coaches have been saying this now. Nick Saban opened the door. All of them have been saying the same thing. We're worried about this. This isn't the way it should work. And I don't think fans are sympathetic to it. I don't think fans care. But you will care. And what Saban is saying is you're going to care when they start to slip. And I think it's a really important game for Alabama and the South to try to hang on and be able to sell a win over Texas while they're trying to hold off Texas coming in and saying, which color of Lamborghini would you like, kid? Oh, your mom too? Which one would you like, ma'am? I think they're trying to hang on to it as much as they can. I think there's a ton of pressure on Saban. I think he's actually carrying the flag of the South. And I know it sounds weird. But I think they're also trying to push back against the 800-pound gorilla with all the money in the world. That's what's hanging over this game. Now, there's the other stuff, right? I mean, I talked about that. There's, the game itself, between the lines, there's one thing. Outside the lines, this is a much, much bigger issue. To think that we could even say, not that anyone in their right mind would like either one of them, but to think that Tommy Tuberville, who's a moron. Did I ever say that to you before, that I feel like he's an absolute moron? There's Tommy Tuberville and there's lovable, cuddly Ted Cruz. To think that those two, who he worshiped the Donald Trump ass, to think that those two would be in a battle hanging over this game is comical and pretty fascinating.